is the Fade 5 Podcast with Brad Evans and Nate Lundy.
Place your bets, yes, Jack Wagons. Brad the Big Noise Evans here in a celebratory mood alongside Nathaniel Lundy. 'Tis indeed the Fade 5 Podcast. And why are we celebrating? Well, way to go, Denver Nuggets. Way to shut up LeBron and AD and take out the Lakers in front of a capacity crowd. They were the crypt, stars studding the seats, and they were somber upon their exit because Denver came back from a pretty large deficit at halftime, had a monster third quarter, and then slammed the door at the bitter end, suffocating LeBron near the rim. So they march on in sweeping fashion to the NBA Finals, and will it be Miami joining them? That could happen tonight. We will have some selections in that game, and maybe honk honk right now aboard the Plus Bus. So, Lundy, I'll let you bat lead off here. You got a ticket in hand. You're riding. You are coasting on that Plus Bus. What is your favorite longer odds wager, even money or greater, available at the variety of sports books on this Tuesday?
Ooh, Brad, you know what? I've kind of got a feeling. Woo, woo. Me and the Black Eyed Peas there. I've got a feeling that in the hockey matchup this evening, which has shifted to Big D, not the Big D that.
Not my nickname.
But switching back to the Big D, Vegas is up 2-0. And so now it goes back to Dallas. Dallas will try to even things up. I like Dallas in the game itself. I'll be honest with you. I think this thing continues to sort of hold home ice, and Dallas takes care of business, which you can get at a standard line at a -140. But something tells me we might get one of those late empty net goals, and Dallas actually wins this by 2 goals. And if that happens, Brad, plus 175 at
work those shoulders, Lundy. Come on, come with it. Get seduced by that juice.
So I do think goals are going to be somewhat at a premium in this game, but I could see this thing being something that is like 2-1 late in the game. Vegas pulls the goalie, trying to get that equalizer, and instead Dallas makes them pay, and they wind up winning 3-1. Dallas wins by 2, and like I said, on the puck line for tonight, because these games have been so tight here in the finals in the NHL, that is plus 175 for Dallas to do it on the multi-goal line.
Oh, that is hot and sexy, and so is this wager in Major League Baseball. I say Cedric Mullins, the speedster on the base pass for the Baltimore Orioles, spreads his wings and flies to another swipe against Garrett Cole, the New York Yankees, plus 265, available at DraftKings. Why am I all aboard Cedric Mullins tonight? Well, he's got 3 stolen bases lifetime in his meetings against Garrett Cole, who has given up 3 stolen bases to the opposition this season. Yeah, he's got that outstanding 2.01 ERA. However, Mullins has a 367 on base percentage, and most importantly, he is 7 for 22. That is a 318 batting average lifetime against Cole, 13 for 14 in stolen base opportunities this season is Mullins. So slap a single, draw a walk. I don't care how you get on base. Just sprint your way to second, get that bag, and we cash that plus 265. I'm working the shoulders again. I got to lumber and loosen up, Lundy, and get seduced by that juice with Mullins on a anytime stolen base this evening against the Yankees. With those bets on the boards, let's get after it on this Taco Tuesday. Suck it, LeBron, with another edition of the Fade 5.
Number 5.
All right, numero 5 on the countdown today. Let's go to the master of the Ghost Fork Ball. He invented the pitch, and I think it's going to mystify the Northsiders in Chicago. I am right now at the United Center taping this podcast, only about a 20-minute drive from Wrigley Field. I'm not going to be at the game tonight, and there's a good reason why, because the Cubs could get embarrassed. They're not playing the best baseball. Thankfully, the road trip is over with. It was dreadful. It was woeful. It was sorrowful. Maybe they'll get back in my good graces tonight at Wrigley Field, but Senga's got some nasty stuff, and as a result, I'm taking the over on 6.5 strikeouts for the Japanese sensation. Look at that juice, plus 130. +130 available at DraftKings Sportsbook. You look at what Senga has done. He has been over this prop in 4 of his last 6 starts, and he has enticed a outstanding 30.2 call plus swinging strike percentage on the season. And most importantly, the Cubs have been drawing a ton of walks, but they also been free swinging in nature. Sometimes they can't lay off what may be a ball 4 or a pitch right there on the borderline of the strike zone. They are number 2 here in the month of May in strikeout rate, punching out 27.8% of the time. And they're also striking out at a slightly higher clip against southpaw pitching. So this all factors into this wager. I think Kodai Senga comes out. Could be a 10K kind of night. Maybe I will buy a ticket. And somebody get me an Italian beef stat. It is a must-have every time I go to Wrigley Field with an old-style draft. Unfortunately, it's serving to the paper cup anymore like they used to. But Lundy, fade or follow Kodai with a K. Will that come through for Senga on the over 6.5 strikeouts at Wrigley, +130 at DraftKings?
Yeah, we need the wind there at Wrigley to be the breeze of the bats, completely missing the ball. That's what we're looking for here. Take Senga on this one. I like the fact you got some really solid plus odds. I was going to suggest you take something like this. You alt it, right? You go find the other alt line, like, hey, do a 7, do an 8 or more strikeout. Whatever. You don't have to. You're already at plus odds. No reason to get greedy in this one. Solid play to kick things off on the fade 5, my friend.
Konnichiwa with Kodai Senga. Punch out my Cubbies. And somebody, give me an old style.
Number 4.
All right, numero cuatro on the countdown today. Let's dabble in the parlay market. And you guys know I love the hits parlays that are available out there. This one not at plus odds, but it's low minus odds. And I think it's worth the investment. Mariners, and I vanished there for a second, but I'm back. And you see the odds there, -104. Put this together at FanDuel Sportsbook. Why am I high on Shohei Ohtani? He's going up against Brian Bello of the Bo Sox, who's got a 4.45 ERA. And most importantly, too, Ohtani's faced him a couple of times, and he is a 1,000% 2 for 2 against him. So hopefully he's going to keep the hit streak going. Ohtani, 6 of his last 10 games, he has registered at least a hit. And a guy, of course, has got prolific power. He might just go yard on that bat, considering that Bello's given up a 1.59 home run per 9 mark this season. Meanwhile, if you look at Esteury Ruiz, one of the shining stars, one of the lone bright spots for the Oakland Fs, I like to call them. Ruiz, 18 for 55 against left-handed pitching. That's a 327 batting average, and he's facing a southpaw. And Seattle's Marco Gonzalez, who's got a paltry, disgusting, wretched 6.10 ERA, and also against right-handed hitters, he's given up a 316 batting average against. Ruiz, who's hit safely in 6 straight games, extends the streak to 7. So to recap, Shohei Ohtani versus, I wrote that down, the Boston Red Sox and Esteury Ruiz on the road in the Starbucks City. Both those guys get a hit, -104 at FanDuel. Lundy, fade or follow?
Yes, it's Shohei versus. What you're trying to do is you're recognizing, Brad, the immense amount of talent behind the MVP. You're trying to actually make it harder for him.
Yes.
He's not just versus the Red Sox. He is double versus against the Red Sox.
He's not pitching, though. He's not pitching. That would be a double verse.
That would be a double verse, hitting and pitching. Although, as you and I know, his batting average when he is also on the bump is ridiculous. You always want to go for him to get a hit if he's ever also on the bump. Solid one. Obviously, you could sprinkle something in, perhaps something I will share with you in bonus time. If you wanted to make this get up above the -104, but I don't see any reason to get greedy in this one. Grab it, especially Ruiz going up against the lefty.
Hits are wild. They should be anyway with Shohei and Esteury Ruiz tonight.
Number 3.
Numero Trays on the Fade 5 podcast. Will the Miami Heat join the Denver Nuggets in the NBA Finals? It could be a double sweep in the conference finals. Very much on the table there in SoFlo. So let's go to that game. And one of my favorite player props is Jimmy Butler. And I'm not focused on points, rebounds, or assists. I'm looking at steals and blocks. I'm going to take the over 2.5. Best juice in the industry right now at Caesars at minus 104. You look at Jimmy Buckets, and maybe it's going to be Jimmy Blocks tonight, hopefully, or just the kleptomaniac side, which we have seen often in this series. I think he could easily get over this. He's gone 6-5-2 combined in this series, so over in 2 of 3. And in the last game, he could just kind of overlook that because he only played 31 minutes, largely sat in the fourth quarter as the game was entirely in hand by Miami as they were leading by 30 plus at the end of the third quarter. I think this could be a 40 plus minute type of a game. And look at Boston. In this postseason, 6th most opponent steals allowed per game at 7.8. And consistency is king here. 6th most opponent blocks per game allowed in the postseason at 5.2. So in the hustle stats, I think Jimmy Butler bashes the over and slams this one home. And that over being 2.5 steals plus blocks, minus 104 at Caesars. Lundy. Fade or follow?
I think Miami is pulling off the sweep tonight, by the way. I think they will move on. First time in history that you will see both conference finals and in a sweep. I think that is what's going to happen tonight, by the way. And if it does happen, it's going to be in part because of this stat. But just give me the hustle stats. I don't even think he necessarily needs to score like crazy tonight, just because I think Boston's quit. So I don't think they give a shit, if I'm being honest with you at this point. I think they'd love to think that they could somehow make a comeback, and I think we're going to see a pretty solid effort out of Boston in the first half. But then I think it's going to be sayonara, see you later, and South Florida pulls away, and we get what everyone is saying the NBA is dreading. Oh, Miami versus Denver. Nobody cares. Folks, I was there for the Spurs versus the Pistons, okay? I've already seen the worst rated NBA finals of all time, so I don't really care what happens with this one. Just let the best two teams here in the postseason move on, and I think that's what we're going to see out of Miami as they roll into the finals, kind of improbably, but it's going to be a fun ride. Butler gets it done tonight. I say it's 2 blocks and 1 steal, and he gets over the number.
Who cares? I care. Lundy cares. Why? Because we're betting on Butler.
Number 2.
All right, let's go. Numero dos here on the Fade 5 with a prop that I could not believe. It honestly opened at BetMGM last night, and if you got in early, congratulations. It was plus 105, and I think that was a mistake by the odds makers and setters on that fine site. Now it's been juiced up to high heaven, but I would still play this if you're late to the party on Caleb Martin. Oh, the pride of the Nevada Wolfpack. 1.5 on the over made threes, minus 150 there at BetMGM. Coming off the bench, he's been one of the surprise sensations of this entire series. What he has done from distance, 3, 3, and 4 3-pointers made is what he has put ball through hoop here in this series. He's averaging 7 flat attempts per game and shooting a blistering 47.6% from way downtown. If you extend out, his last 6 games have been over this number, and 5 of those last 6. Boston has allowed the 7th most opponent 3-pointers made at 13 flat and close to 35% to the opposition. This has been really a storyline this entire series, how Miami has blitzkrieged Boston from the perimeter, whether it's with Gabe Vincent, whether it's with Max the Toaster Strusel, or with Caleb Martin, or even Jimmy Butler's making threes. I think the sky's going to open up, and it's going to rain again, and especially for Martin. I say, 1, 2, 3, mi amigos, makes at least 3 and doubles up this number. That's why I still like it at a heavier juice, minus 150 at BetMGM. Lundy, fade or follow?
Well, it's kind of like getting minus odds on Jokic for a triple-double. I mean,
yeah,
it was minus 115 last night, and I still hammered it. Even though over the course of the season, I was getting some odds on that on occasion at plus 130, 135, 145 even in some of the matchups. So sometimes the odds, folks, are in the book's favor for a reason, and you just got to suck it up and make the bet anyway. I like this one. I appreciate you rubbing my nose in the fact that I didn't get in on this one last night when it posted. I was too busy celebrating with the Nuggets finally making it to the NBA Finals, so I didn't get a chance to jump in on this one. Thanks, man. Thanks. Just like you're potty training the dog, right? Your house training, just rubbing his nose in it. Rude, dude.
Well, you know what? Just raise another glass of añejo. Hey, do some more celebratory shots, Lundy. Again, the Nuggets are going to the finals, and we're hitting the over on Caleb Martin.
Number 1.
All right, numero uno on the feed 5. Today, let's get down and emphasize down because we're going to live in the land down under on Jaylen Brown. On the under PRA. If you don't know what that stands for, points, rebounds, and assists. And that number sitting at 33.5. Minus 104 on the under at FanDuel Sportsbook. As I've said, and Lundy reiterated, the Celtics are thinking about Mai Tai somewhere in Barbados at a fancy resort. Their mind is completely out of this series. They are done. It was clear and present in the last game, and I think it's going to be more of the same tonight. As Brown has been under this number in 2 of the 3 matchups in this series, and extend down his last 7, he's been under in 6 of his last 7. He's averaging in this series 16.7 points per game, 6.3 rebounds per game, and 3.3 assists per game. So you total all those up. I'm no math major, but that's nowhere close to 34, which you will need to hit the over and make us look silly in the process. Meanwhile, Miami has allowed the 6th fewest points per game to opponents here in this postseason, 8th fewest rebounds per game, and the 4th fewest assists per game to the opposition. And Lundy and I both believe Miami slams the door, ends this sucker. It's a wrap as they march on to take the Nuggets on in the NBA Finals. So, Lundy, I already kind of know the answer here. I think you're going to follow me and not fade me on Jaylen Brown under 33.5 PRA minus 104 at FanDuel.
Yeah, everybody listening and watching is doomed because I agreed with you on all 5, and we know that is the absolute kiss of death.
0 for 5.
The same thing happens to me on the TV show whenever Todd would look at me on ICYMI and go, I like all of these. That was when I knew that I was going to go like 0 for 5, 1 and 4, maybe something like that. I always knew I was screwed. I think that's exactly what's going to happen here. I got to play the under just because it look at the numbers. Like you just said, yeah. I mean, I know you talked about it on Twitter the other day. It's like there are certain things you got to look up in matchups. Sometimes you got to take trends into account. You got to put those two things together. Well, the trends tell you that he's not going to get close to this number. It's just not. I think the only way he gets to this number is if Boston somehow comes out with, I don't know, some pride and tries to perform this evening, and you wind up with the Heat going, all right, screw it. And they just punt and they live to see another day. But I don't think that's going to happen. I think Miami sweeps this thing, and then we're all sitting around and waiting as though it's the 2 weeks in between the AFC, NFC championships and the Super Bowl, waiting around for the playoffs to continue with the finals next Thursday.
The plane tickets are already bought. The reservations have been made at the resort. The vacacion is about to kick in for the Boston Celtics, and Jaylen Brown's going to be a big reason why they underachieved here in the NBA postseason. Enough of that diatribe. It's bonus time. Lundy, whether it's the NBA, the NHL postseason, or tonight's slate of Major League Baseball, what do you got on your plate?
Well, I know we're in a bit of a time crunch. You've got a television show to do. And by the way, I think what's happened is you're at the United Center, and because of the United part, I think what's happening, Brad, is that your Wi-Fi is very similar to trying to use the Wi-Fi on a United flight. I just wanted to take a little stab there at United. Brad, let me throw a couple things out. First of all, go to back to that hockey game that I was talking about between Vegas and Dallas. I do think it's going to be low scoring, but I do think that if that takes place, we're going to see Jamie Benn involved on the Dallas Stars. It's juiced up a bit. It's at a minus 140 for him to have a point in the game tonight, but I do think that happens, whether it's an assist, whether he happens to put the puck in the back of the net, one way or the other. I think he's going to be involved. It is a minus 140 at DraftKings, but I think it's worth the price because of the fact that I think he is going to be very active tonight as Dallas. Remember, it's required that I say the word pivotal game 3 at home this evening as they try to get back into the win column against Vegas. I'm staying away for the most part, away from the rest of the NBA contest tonight down in South Beach. But you know what we do, Brad? We go right back to the well. You just keep digging, right, until you do it. Jaylen Brown over 2.5 turnovers, folks. He just keeps turning the ball over. And if you go back to what Brad was telling you about Jimmy Butler with the steals plus blocks and the defense that Miami has been playing, that is part of the reason why. In the first 3 games of this series, Jaylen Brown is averaging 3.7 turnovers per game. He didn't do it in game 2. He only had 2, but he had 6 in game 1, and he had 3 in the last one. And in fact, if you go all the way back to the semifinals against the 76ers, he was doing this constantly. So it's another one that is juiced up. Maybe you want to pair it up with something else, because I want to say that it's sitting right now at like a minus 155, but it's what he keeps doing. He's turning the ball over, and it's a function of how he plays. It's a function of how involved he is on the offense. So take Jaylen Brown over on the 2.5 turnovers. Brad, there are a number of people in the MLB who are hot. One of those guys that is scorching right now happens to be playing at Coors Field tonight. So let's roll with Brian De La Cruz of your Miami Marlins, who has over 1.5 total bases in 8 of his last 10 games. So not hits, but total bases. So I am on his total bases, which, by the way, is juiced. It's a minus 120 to go over on the 1.5 total bases. Folks, last night at Coors, even though Miami lost, he was 4 for 4, okay? He's loving the altitude right now. And like I said, regardless of whether it's Coors or not, he has been doing this. He's done it in 8 of his last 10 games. In fact, if you go back over that same streak, you're looking at a guy whose batting average has gone from 256 to 302. That's how hot he is right now. So ride that hot hand. And if you don't trust the total base side with me, 3-legger for you, Brad. Each of these guys just needs to get a hit for me. The aforementioned Brian De La Cruz. I told you how hot he has been. I just need a hit. Doesn't matter what kind. Give me Stephen Kwan of the Cleveland Guardians there. He has had at least a hit in 3 out of the 4 matchups he's had against the White Sox. And last night, he went 1 for 3 with a double against them. So I say that he stays hot. And of course, when he sits there in the lineup as he does, he's in a perfect spot, I think, to take advantage of it. So he needs a hit. And then we're going to take Christian Vasquez behind the plate for the Twins, put him at the plate for the Twins, and give me the opportunity for him to wind up with a hit as well. Lifetime against Alex Cobb of the San Francisco Giants. He had a 632 average against Cobb. He's like 12 of 19 or something like that against him lifetime. So again, recapping, Stephen Kwan for a hit, Christian Vasquez for a hit, Brian De La Cruz for a hit. At FanDuel, that is a tasty, so yummy, plus 165.
Oh, yeah, that sounds right, 60. And I love the history card with Kwan and Christian Vasquez. Great call on that one. All right, let's work in my Team Huevos parlay play of the day. In Major League Baseball, let's go with the white-hot Redbirds of St. Louis to score 4 or more runs. St. Louis also to get the win on the money line, and Nolan Arenado to knock in a run to get an RBI, plus 195 on that 3-legger. Available at DraftKings. The Redbirds going to the Reds and playing Mr. Red Legs in Cincinnati there on the road. And they have recorded at least 4 runs or more in 11 of their last 13 games. They are number 1 in total runs scored in the month of May, playing 127 in 20 games. You look at the alternate run line here on the standard run line they've covered in 6 of their last 10. So building a little bit of safety. And you look at Arenado. He's got an RBI in 11 of his last 16. He's been on a home run tear, cooled off here last couple of games, but he is 3 for 6 lifetime against, you bet your Ashcraft, Graham Ashcraft of Cincinnati, who's got a 4.84 ERA. So he knocks in a run. Again, you see the juice there, quite seducing at DraftKings. Meanwhile, back to the NBA playoffs. Team Huevos parlay play numero dos. Give me Jimmy Butler, 1+ steals. Jimmy Butler, 5+ assists. Gabe Benson, 2 or more threes. Max Struz, 2 or more threes. And Derek White, just 1 3. plus 360 there at BetMGM. I don't have any real numbers to back any of this up, to be honest with you. This is a gut play based on the matchup and based on what we have seen in this series. So lower thresholds, pretty enticing juice there at BetMGM, and completely and highly achievable from start to finish, but inevitably, one of these legs is going to crumble in a heaping pile because they're going to tear their ACL.
This is good. This is good. Come on. Positive thinking, Brad. Positive thinking.
I'm screwed. Elsewhere in bonus time, let's get after it and back to baseball. Let's go back to Colorado and that Rockies matchup against visiting Miami. I cannot believe Yuri Perez, his strikeout prop is at 4.5. And it's a plus money, plus 110 right now at BetMGM. It should be plus money. I'm fine with the 4.5, but it should be like minus 125, minus 130, and not plus odds. Why? Because he went 8 Ks, he went 7 Ks in his first 2 turns as a Major League Baseball pitcher. I know he cannot buy a beer legally. He's only 20 years old, but that came against Washington and Cincinnati, 2 teams with lower K rates. Colorado middle of the pack in K rate here in the month of May, number 17 to be exact in that category. And this guy is posted a 30.1 call plus swinging strike percentage. He's got a high 90s fastball. He's got great movement, a slider that falls off the table, and a curveball and a change right now that are registering as plus pitches. He's punching out 5. I absolutely love this play. I debated putting this at number 1, but I just want to fade the Celtics and Jaylen Brown. So Yuri Perez over 4.5 strikeouts, plus 110. I love that one. And staying in the strikeout market, this one may shock some people because you saw the number like, oh, this is way too low. Hammer the living daylights out of the over. But not so fast, my friend. I think the books are trying to deceive you with Dylan Cease. I say take the under on 4.5. That is it. 4.5 strikeouts against the Cleveland Guardians, and it's a plus 120 at DraftKings. You look at Dylan Cease. He just faced the Cleveland Guardians on May 18th and struck out only 3. And it wasn't like an early hook, an exit in that game. I think he went 6 or 7 innings and still only had the 3 strikeouts. Why? Cleveland is a high contact team. They had the lowest, the bottom barrel and strikeout rate here in the month of May, only punching out 19.1% of the time. And you look at a lot of Cease's analytics, his K per 9 is way down. Since 2020, he has steadily decreased there. His swinging strike rate is 11.8%, and that's like nearly 3% lower than what it was last year. So you put it all together, high contact team, just faced him, not remotely close to getting 5 strikeouts, and you're getting plus money on the under. I think he duplicates what he did the last time. May go 7 innings strong, but it's 3 or 4 punch outs and not a single one more. And guess what? Not a single one more pick is going to come out of my mouth or Lundy's mouth, because that is a wrap on this edition of the Fade 5 podcast. Do us a favor and drop us a rating and a review. If you enjoy this podcast, we'll be back on Friday. Meanwhile, you can always track our picks every single day on our free and always accessible spreadsheets on the Twitter. Follow Lundy at Nate Lundy and follow me there at Noisy Huevos. For the hard partying Nate Lundy, go Nugs! I'm Brad Evans. As always, until next time, feed or follow, that is up to you.